What if I told you that the end times might not be as far off as we think? What if I said that centuries ago, a vision was given, a vision of four riders on horses, carrying destruction, deception, famine, and death, and their hooves could already be echoing across our world today? Most people glance at the book of Revelation and think it's a story for another time, another world. But the truth is far more unsettling. The prophecy of the four horsemen isn't just symbolism, it's a warning. A warning coded with details so precise, so terrifying, that even the most careful scholars struggle to grasp the full picture. And the first horse, the first horse, it rides before the others, and its rider is unlike any figure in history, yet somehow its impact can be felt in our world even now. Revelation 6 verse 1 to 2 describes the first horse, a white horse. Its rider carries a bow, and a crown is given to him. He goes out conquering and to conquer. Simple words, right? But their meaning is anything but simple. White. Conquest. A crown. Victory. Power. Think about that for a moment. The Bible doesn't say he's a king. It doesn't say he's a soldier. It says he is a conqueror, and he conquers with precision, strategy, and influence. Some scholars have argued that this first horseman represents nations, empires, and leaders who rise to power through cunning, deception, and influence rather than sheer force. Others say he could even symbolize ideologies, ideas that sweep across humanity, conquering hearts and minds before armies ever march. And here's the unsettling part. History seems to echo this prophecy. Time and again, empires have risen with swift conquest, their influence spreading far and wide. The Babylonians, the Persians, the Romans, and more recently, global powers in our lifetime. But the Bible doesn't just leave this horseman in history. The vision hints that these riders are appointed for a reason. Every conquest, every victory, every rise of power is allowed. Yes, allowed by God. There is a divine plan, even in what appears to be chaos. Now, here's where the story gets even more chilling. The first horseman isn't alone for long. He rides, and as he rides, the stage is set for the others. Because the horsemen are not random. They follow a sequence. Conquest leads to conflict leads to famine, and famine leads to death. And yet, it all begins with this first rider, the conqueror. But what does it mean for us today? Are the signs all around us, if we just look closely? Consider this. The rapid rise of ideologies, technologies, and political powers that dominate global influence, often overnight. Wars sparked with precision, not chaos. Markets that crash and rise like clockwork. Societies conquered, not always by armies, but by ideas, by systems, by influence. Could the white horse already be riding? Could its crown be in our time, in ways most people would never notice? And then there's the bow. The rider on the white horse carries a bow, but no arrow is described. Why a bow but not an arrow? Some scholars say this is symbolic. The weapon is present, but it doesn't fire randomly. Its power is precise, targeted, silent, invisible to the unsuspecting eye. The first horseman conquers not only lands but hearts, not just nations but minds. Influence spreads silently, often unnoticed until it's too late. But here's the part most people miss. And this is where the suspense builds. The rider is crowned, but the crown is temporary. It's a crown of authority, yes, but it's granted for a purpose. The first horse sets the stage for the others. He opens the doors of chaos, unknowingly or knowingly, allowing the red, black, and pale horses to follow in sequence. Think of it like this. The first horse is the spark in a dry forest. Conquest, influence, deception, it spreads, and then war erupts. And when war erupts, famine is never far behind. Death waits patiently at the end of the path. And there's something more. The Bible is clear. These horsemen are not evil for the sake of evil. Their authority is permitted. Every conquest, every victory, every calamity is recorded in heaven. Nothing happens without oversight. Imagine that for a moment. The rise and fall of nations, the triumphs and tragedies of human history, all meticulously observed, all part of a divine timeline. But even knowing this, the question remains. If these horsemen are appointed, how close are they to fulfilling the prophecy completely? Are we living in the era of the first rider? Or is he already on the move, unseen, his influence spreading quietly across the globe? When the first horseman rode, the world trembled quietly, often without notice. But the stage had been set, because now the red horse emerges. Revelation 6 verse 3 to 4 says, Another horse, fiery red, was given to him who sat on it, to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And a great sword was given to him. The red horse is no ordinary rider. Where the white horse conquers silently, the red horse ignites chaos. This is the horse of war. War that tears families, nations, and alliances apart. Unlike the first horse, whose power was subtle and invisible, the red horse leaves scars you can see, hear, and feel. Imagine cities trembling under artillery, nations dividing under sudden conflict, and entire peoples swept into bloodshed they never anticipated. That is the red horse, swift, relentless, merciless. But here's the chilling part. War does not come randomly. The red horse rides after conquest. The influence of the first horseman weakens structures, corrupts governments, and sows distrust. And when societies are vulnerable, war erupts, precisely as foretold. Think about history. World wars, revolutions, conflicts sparked seemingly out of nowhere. Sometimes they seem inevitable in hindsight. But what if that inevitability was predicted? What if it was written down thousands of years ago, and war brings famine? That's where the black horse enters. Revelation 6 verses 5-6 says, I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice saying, a measure of wheat for a denarius, and 3 measures of barley for a denarius. The black horse measures scarcity. It represents famine, economic collapse, and deprivation. After war, food is scarce. After devastation, the innocent starve. But notice the scale's precision. This isn't random hunger. It's controlled, measured, calculated. And here's the haunting part. Famine is rarely just about crops failing. It follows the patterns of conquest and war. Supply chains collapse. Trade routes vanish. Inflation skyrockets. The rich may survive, but the poor suffer, often silently. Red, black. One brings the blood of battle. The other brings the hunger of the helpless. And yet, the pale horse waits in the shadows, patient, inevitable. Revelation 6 verse 7-8 describes it. Behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with famine, with pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth. This is the horse of death itself, riding last, but far from least. The pale horse doesn't act in isolation. It rides in conjunction with the others. Conquest weakens nations. War shatters peace. Famine starves the people. And death follows, relentless and comprehensive. But here's where it gets terrifying. The Bible says power is given to these riders. They are permitted. Every conquest, every war, every famine, every death is part of the timeline, observed, measured, and allowed by God. Think about that for a second. Even the horrors we see today, wars erupting in distant lands, famines hitting regions already struggling, diseases spreading faster than we can contain, they may not be random. They may be part of a sequence foretold millennia ago. And it's not just the scale, it's the timing. The riders act in order with precision. First, conquest to weaken, then war to destroy, then famine to starve, then death to harvest. And yet, despite this terrifying vision, there is a plan behind the chaos. Because the four horsemen do not act without boundaries. They're allowed to inflict suffering, but only for a time, and only up to a point. Revelation speaks of the final judgment, of the reckoning that follows, when every injustice will be measured and every act recorded. Now, imagine the world today. Technology allows wars to escalate in minutes. Global trade links make famine ripple across continents. Disease spreads faster than ever, sometimes coinciding with instability caused by human conflict. Could it be that the riders' hooves are echoing across the modern world, just as the vision predicted? Some scholars point to events like the rise of global powers, the alignment of nations in unprecedented coalitions, and conflicts that seem perfectly timed with economic crashes, and they wonder if these are the signs of the riders moving in our time. And yet, even as these horrors unfold, there's a final layer that gives the prophecy its ultimate suspense. The pale horse does not act alone. Death is accompanied by Hades, a force representing the realm of the departed, the spiritual consequences, and the unseen dimensions of destruction. The pale horse collects more than bodies. It collects the spiritual weight of nations, civilizations, and people. This is why the book of Revelation is not meant to comfort. It is meant to warn, to awaken, to make us look at the world and at history in a way we never have before. So what do we do with this knowledge? If the red horse is bloodshed, the black horse is famine, and the pale horse is death, are we powerless? Not entirely. The vision also warns that these events are temporary, appointed, and measured. They serve a purpose, part of a divine timeline that leads to justice, redemption, and restoration. Now, consider the modern world. Global conflicts flare seemingly out of nowhere. Economies crash with dizzying speed. Diseases spread across continents. Natural disasters strike with unprecedented intensity. Nations tremble, alliances break, and the weak are trampled. Could these events be more than chance? Could they be the hooves of the horsemen echoing in our time? And then there is the warning embedded in the text. The pale horse is accompanied by Hades, the unseen dimension of death. Spiritual consequences, unseen forces, the realms beyond human control. This isn't just about mortality. It's about the spiritual weight of nations and peoples. Consider Revelation 16, verse 12, which speaks of the sixth angel pouring out his bowl on the great river Euphrates to prepare the way for the kings of the east. What is this saying? That the east will rise in power, that alliances and nations will move with unstoppable force. Could this be a sign that the riders' movements are tied to geopolitical shifts, mass migrations, and the rise of superpowers? History, prophecy, and modern events converge. The Bible does not speak of war, famine, and death as random tragedies. They are signs, the hooves of the horsemen, marching in sequence, shaping the world in preparation for the ultimate revelation. And here's the revelation that brings it all together. These horsemen are already active, already riding, but their final movements have not yet concluded. The red horse has stirred nations into conflict. The black horse has measured scarcity across the globe. And the pale horse, death, is poised to harvest the consequences, collecting not just bodies, but the spiritual weight of the world. But there is hope. The book of Revelation is not merely a chronicle of doom. It is a call to awareness, a summons to vigilance, a guide to survival. The riders cannot act outside the bounds of divine authority. There is a timetable, and there is a plan, one that leads to ultimate justice, redemption, and restoration. And now, here is the final, breathtaking part. The secret kept until the end. The riders are not the end. They are the precursors. Their rise, their sequence, and their impact all point toward a singular event. The return of the Lamb, the ultimate judgment, and the establishment of eternal peace. The hooves may already be on the earth. The red horse may be riding in current conflicts. The black horse may be measuring famine and scarcity even as we speak. And the pale horse may be collecting, moving unseen, its shadow stretching across nations. But the conclusion is clear. The riders are appointed, measured, and ultimately defeated. Revelation 19 verses 11 to 16 tells us of the white horse that follows, the rider called faithful and true, who will judge and make war with justice. The sequence of the four horsemen leads not to despair, but to divine triumph. So what does this mean for us here now? It means awareness is survival. Understanding the prophecy, recognizing the rider's movement in the modern world, and aligning with the ultimate purpose of God. These are not just spiritual exercises. They are preparation for what is unfolding in real time. The horsemen ride. The earth trembles. Nations rise and fall. And yet, the faithful have a guide, a roadmap, and a promise. The chaos will end. Justice will come. The Lamb will return. And every hoofbeat will have led to a destiny foretold from eternity. Are the hooves already on the earth? Look around you. Watch the nations, the wars, the famines, the crises. Listen to the cries of the earth and of humanity. And know this. The vision of the four horsemen is alive, unfolding, and closer than most dare to believe, because Revelation is not just prophecy. It is warning. It is instruction. It is a call to wake up, watch, and prepare, for the red, black, and pale horses are riding, and the final act of the Lamb is yet to come.